So there I was, lying in a hospital bed, feeling like a human pincushion. Half my face was doing its best Picasso impression, and I had zero ability to move from the chest down. I didn't know what was wrong. Neither did anybody else, not even the doctors. What they did know, after days of tests and ruling out absolutely everything else, was that I had Guillain-Barré syndrome, lovingly shortened to GBS, a rare autoimmune disorder where your immune system attacks your peripheral nervous system, resulting in weakness, paralysis, and often respiratory failure. It occurs in about 1 in 100,000 people annually and tends to start in your hands or feet. Within 1 week, I went from being a former Miss North Carolina, USA, and competitive beach volleyball player to being so paralyzed that I couldn't roll over onto my side when the doctors were doing a spinal tap. I cried, not from the pain, but because I was scared. Every day felt like a twisted game of roulette. Would I ever be able to move my body again? Would I lose the ability to swallow today? The reality of the situation was setting in. Days later, I could barely breathe, and half my face would become paralyzed. I was terrified, and I was fighting for my life. There is no cure for GBS. Treatment is all about reducing severity. For 2 weeks, I was in the hospital receiving treatment before the paralysis finally stopped progressing. Picture a hurricane-ravaged city after the storm passes. That was my body. My peripheral nervous system was absolutely wrecked, while my central nervous system was sending thoughts and prayers. Spoiler alert, I survived. But not dying was just the starting line of my recovery. What lay ahead was a battle I wasn't prepared for. See, back then, I thought resilience was all about being tough and pushing through the pain to reclaim who I was and what I could do before GBS. Maybe I had it wrong. After I got out of the hospital, I was transferred to another hospital for intensive physical therapy. At 30 years old, I had to relearn everything. Standing up, walking, brushing my teeth. My doctor told me I would make a full recovery and walk out of the hospital. I believed him. Spoiler alert number 2, that's not how GBS works. For 2.5 weeks, I put in the work. Physical therapy, occupational therapy, all the therapies. Before I could get out of the hospital, I had to pass an obstacle course that was like the opposite of Ninja Warrior. Standing up from a chair, getting in and out of a car, walking down the hallway with the help of a walker, and climbing 4 steps. That's it. Seems simple enough, right? The first time I tried, I failed. I felt completely rejected. Not exactly the full recovery I had envisioned. Every day the therapist would tell me to move this body part or move that body part, but I couldn't feel any of my body parts. Have you ever had your arm fall asleep because you were laying on it funny? That's what this was like, but I couldn't just shake it out. Everything was either completely numb or asleep, just buzzing with pins and needles so badly that I had no other sensation. They may have been the experts, but I knew what they were doing wasn't working. So I asked them to try something different. As a little girl, learning to walk in my mother's high heels, I would spend hours practicing in front of the mirror to make sure I'd got it just right. So that's what I did again. I asked the therapist to put a mirror in front of the parallel bars so I could watch myself trying to walk. I looked like a baby calf, all wobbly, trying to find its legs, but I needed to visually connect my brain back to my body. I was encouraged by the progress, and I asked the therapist how long it tends to take nerves to heal. I thought it would be like a week or 2. No. I learned that nerves regenerate at a rate of about 1 millimeter per day or 1 inch per month. At 6 feet tall, my recovery wasn't just going to take effort, It was going to take time, lots of it. Recovery wasn't some heroic montage of me conquering setbacks with sheer determination and a Super 6 soundtrack. No. It was a painstaking process of showing up every single day. Resilience, I learned, isn't about being brave or strong. It's about putting in the work over and over again. It's like muscle memory. You build it through repetition. Resilience also isn't about just hoping for the best. It's about adapting. I was different, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. I couldn't stand up straight. My belly protruded out because my digestive system had also been paralyzed. But trust me, you don't want those details. I couldn't close my left eye, so I looked like the sloth from the Goonies movie. This wasn't something that I could just power through with will alone. I had to decide what I could control and let go of what I couldn't. I couldn't control how other people looked at me. Frankly, I couldn't even control my own body. The only thing that I had control over was my mind. Self-pity is tempting, but finding humor in the absurdity and moving forward, that's infinitely better. So I kept moving forward. After I got out of the hospital, I turned 31 years old and celebrated with my friends with a little party and showed them how I could walk down the hallway with the help of my pink walker, and everybody cheered. As a mentor for a college ministry program, I had agreed to chaperone their mission trip to Cuba several months before being diagnosed with GBS. All the paperwork had been done, and I was the only female chaperone for a group of 9 girls. So my walker and I went to Cuba 5 days after getting out of the hospital. Now I realize this sounds like a terrible idea, and even the hospital chaplain told me I was absolutely crazy for still being committed to going. And she wasn't wrong, because when we got there, we learned that there was an incredibly obnoxious number of stairs that I had to climb every single day that made the test to get out of the hospital look like child's play. For that first attempt, 2 people had to carry me up those steps. Every day, at least one, but usually all 9 girls, would patiently wait and help me as I attempted to climb. Every day, my legs got a little bit stronger, and I needed a little less help. Before we left, I climbed the entire stairwell with a good amount of assistance from the arm rail, but all by myself. It was one of my proudest moments. That trip to Cuba was exactly what I needed. I was surrounded by a community of people that quite literally held me up. Every day, everyone was always hugging me. That's just the culture. But you know what hugs do? They increase oxytocin, which helps your body recover after traumatic events. When I had originally planned on going, I thought it was going to be me helping this community of people that had been ravaged by poverty, natural disasters, and political issues. It turned into that community helping me after I had been ravaged by my own immune system. After I got home, I continued to practice walking in front of the mirror and even started walking dogs to work on my mobility and help pay off medical bills. But I kept hitting these GBS brick walls, fatigue and setbacks that felt like my body was betraying me all over again. Tests revealed that I was dangerously anemic, had Hashimoto's disease, and celiac disease. These diagnoses weren't the news that I wanted, but they brought relief because they opened the door to treatment, and with it, a clearer path forward. Adversity has a way of doing that, offering clarity amidst the chaos. It strips away the noise, and it shows us how our experiences, no matter how painful, can become a lifeline for others. When I started sharing my story on social media and at church, friends connected me with their friends who had autoimmune disease questions. Strangers sent me messages on Instagram asking for advice about recovery. I learned I wasn't just surviving, I was turning my struggles into something meaningful, a bridge for others to cross their own challenges. All right, so here's the deal, y'all. Life does not come with guarantees, manuals, or do-overs. It is messy, unpredictable, and often unfair. But every day, you get a choice. You can either let the setbacks define you, or you can use them as bricks to build something new. I still feel the pins and needles, and my face is still a bit wonky. But it reminds me, resilience isn't about bouncing back. It's about showing up, adapting, and creating a life that's worth the struggle. So go ahead, build forward.